All right, now that we're done with all the mechanical aspects of MechanicO, we're going to do something that is incredibly important and will make a huge difference on this trip, and that is the final tune. So how do we tune MechanicO? Well, if you remember in some of the past reports, and certainly in my written up report, I removed the Bosch control system out of MechanicO and replaced it with a Motec system. And I'm going to give you a tour of that here in a second. What that allows us to do is to go in there and make all our own changes and whatnot to the tune of MechanicO. I don't do it because it's very involved, super techie stuff, and there are people that are far better at it than I. And that happens to be a guy named Nick who works for Motec in North Carolina. I have never met Nick. I've known him since 2017. We have talked probably hundreds of hours and done remote sessions with MechanicO, but I've never met him. So what I'm about to do is here up on Ute Pass, which is outside of town on our controlled test facility, we are going to run a series of high-stress runs on MechanicO that Nick has graphed out for me. And then I take that log file and I send it to Nick, and he does his magic, sends me back the file, I put him back in MechanicO, and he always runs better after that. So that's what we're doing today. Let me give you a quick tour of the hardware that is Motec, and then off we go for some runs. All right, so this is the quick tour of the MechanicO, or not the MechanicO, Motec hardware on MechanicO. First, we have the new dashboard, C125. You saw that earlier. Unfortunately, you can't see them, but down in here is a Motec PDM, which controls all the power distribution, as in PDM, power distribution module for MechanicO. And what we're going to be dealing with today is the ECU, the M130. This controls all the motor functions and gives us the tune and drivability that is MechanicO. So this is what we're going to be reading and logging into today. And Nick does his tune and we put it back in here and we run better. So let's go ahead and start our session here to get Nick his file. All right, the first thing we're going to do is a 10% run. What that means is we are going to hold the throttle at about 10% open, and I happen to have a percent throttle open number right there. So I'm going to hold it about 10%, and I do that in third gear until we basically stop accelerating, and it doesn't take long. 10% is boring. I will also be watching the lambda, which is how rich or lean our motor is running during all this to make sure we do not burn it up. If I see that go super lean, then I will stop testing. So let's do the 10% run, and then of course we're going to do a 20%, but then we're going to do a 40, 60, 80, and 100%. Jumps to 20. We're doing a finer amount of testing down low because that is actually where you spend most of your time. But then we will end up at 100% throttle at third gear, which gets very exhilarating. All right, here we go. 10%. Check that everything's clear. Get it in a third as soon as I can. Let it roll down. And then hold it at 10%. Like I said, super boring. And eventually we will not accelerate anymore. And it is hard to hold. You can see it bopping around a little bit there. Not staying exactly on 10%. But at some point, we're going to stop accelerating. And that's going to be about around now. 43. Well, let's see if we can get a little more out of it. Come on, MechanicO. 10% throttle. You can do it. And I think that's it. All right. So that's our 10% run. Turn around. Do a 20% run. All right, I did do the 20 and the 40%. Didn't want to bore you with those, but I am going to show you one of the mid ones here. Let's do a 60% pull. Here we go. Get it in a third, and then put it at 60. Hit the rev limiter, whichever comes first. Rev limit's about 8,500. about max. All right. I'm going to do an 80% and then I'll show you the 100% because that usually is fun. All right, here's the last pass. We're going to do this one at 100% throttle, third gear, until we top out. Might pull the plug before the rev limiter because there's really no point. I don't really hang out there very often, so I don't want to stress him too much. And he doesn't want to be stressed. Pegged. Hit the rev limit. I just started to feel it skip and I looked down. I think we're right at 85. So that's it. We take that file and we send it off to Nick. He does his thing, and MechanicO is a better machine. He always is. Another great day in Summit County, Colorado. All right, everyone, you saw how I just collected all that data from those runs up on Ute Pass. I have sent that to my guy, Nick, at Motec. Now, as I've said before, I've never met Nick. Based off his skills, I'm going to guess Nick is 6'4" and about 240 and very ripped. How close am I, Nick?
About the opposite, but we're
about
good.
The opposite, okay. Well, don't blow the image. So Nick has been tuning MechanicO here for, about 5 years and done an amazing job. The hours and time he has spent on this is phenomenal, and that is what you get with Motec and their products and the support. Nick, let me ask you this. You know the bike. Obviously, you're not responsible for the mechanics, but you are the guy who has tuned MechanicO. If you were about to go around the world, what is your confidence in the tune on this bike?
Oh, it's really high. I mean, we've done all the testing and the runs to get it there, so you should be ready to go for it.
Fantastic, man. And what I really like about this Motec system I'm running, not only is it super powerful and does amazing things, but the capacity to look at it on the road. If I'm in the high plains of Bolivia and something is going wrong, as long as I can find internet, I can plug into the system, dial up Nick here, and Nick, you can take a look and we can both see what's the problem is, right?
Yeah, we can either tune it live or work over sending me data and I'll send you new files.
Exactly.
Depending on how well your internet connection is.
Exactly. It all depends on the internet, especially when we're doing remote stuff. You need a pretty robust internet. That's amazing, folks. I mean, normally you got to drag your bike to the dealer and they charge you X to give you a bunch of codes and that's it. So this is next level stuff as far as diagnostics. So anyways, Nick, we're gonna call it a day. I think we've got a little bit more work Nick and I are gonna do on MechanicO, but otherwise, thanks, Nick, and hope you can join along virtually on this trip.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You got it, Nick. And that, folks, is the end of tuning MechanicO. I thought I'd show it to you to see how it's done. It is kind of interesting. We actually did end up going out one more time to Ute Pass because Nick, the overlord of tuning, needed to check a few other things. MechanicO is as good as he gets. So that's the end of this episode, and it's actually the end of all the what I'm calling the pre-episodes. After this one, it's going to be a travel series, if you want to call it that. No more build-up, no more shop. As you can tell, I've put sheets over my machines. My shop is bundled up. My property is all rented out. They're moving in tonight. So I'm leaving today. So once this episode's end, the next one will be me leaving in November over Vail Pass. That should be interesting. So tune in for that.